Hey, it's me. So, 10th anniversary killer is finally out. Jason in Dead by Daylight is finally a thing, a decade after this game was released, and It's Jason! It's It's Jason! Can't complain. Jason isn't from Friday the 13th, but instead brought to us from the lovely people over at Jason Universe, meaning we have both Freddy and Jason, but specifically the versions who didn't appear in Freddy vs. Jason. Luckily, unlike Freddy, this means Jason has a bunch of customizable outfit pieces, and likely more will be coming. Personally, I'm going to be creating my ideal look, Green Jason. This unfortunately also means this release was only a killer, as the rights to Crystal Lake aren't held by Jason Universe, or at least aren't held as firm as to be able to make a map. Same goes with Survivor. Post-recording Grum here, I forgot to write anything about the lore. Oops. Quick lore synopsis for those who care. Jason is a semi-original take and doesn't mention Pamela or even Crystal Lake. He wanders through presumably Ormond due to Perkquote and then to Greenville, and fights the Unknown immediately after the Unknown teaser took place, by the way. He shows everyone why they call him the Harmless, and the entity takes Jason and each goes off to chase Zarina, I believe. Okay, thanks, bye. Jason Voorhees, otherwise known as the Slasher, called it, comes to us with the power Omnipresent Evil, which is such a cool name. Jason on command can vanish into a cloud of mist in order to become stealthy and traverse the map quicker. This is inspired by fan interpretation turned official, Jason's ability to teleport. While never really stated, Jason tends to crop up to surprise his victims from unexpected angles, causing fans to theorize that he has the supernatural ability to teleport. Jason Universe has adapted this before, with him vanishing into mist clouds as a move in the fighting game Multiverses. Which, was a game. Jeez, if I had a nickel, Omnipresent Jason has the inability to directly see survivors, but while omnipresent, sees survivor footsteps, and if they're stood still, a large red cloud of fog. Now you may think, oh, doesn't that make him overpowered? Well, the counter is as easy as... Jason comes out of his power in a very specific way that I personally have been wanting to see on a killer since Dracula released. A killer you remotely teleport to, vault, or break actions. Jump scares, it's called, feels really fun to use. It reveals nearby people detected by Omnipresent Evil and grants you a speed boost. It can also be used to cut off survivors or unsuspectingly attack survivors when they least expect it, just like Jason in the movies, so bonus points I guess. Even just this half of his power set feels really fun to use and play against, and it's easy to use, so bonus points for all the new players who will likely be playing him. The other half of Jason's power is something I never expected to see him have, a ranged attack. To be more specific, a ranged attack that's interesting. Jason uses throwing spikes, either gathered from hooks or random piles scattered throughout the trial, for a single-use hit that pushes survivors, similar to Wesker. It's so fun to prevent survivors from using a pallet or just, like, moving them to a position they don't want to be in. It's fun. If the spike was from a hook, it also impales the survivor, meaning they have to remove it from themselves so they can heal. Man, if I had the spike can also pin survivors to walls for an easy grab, and like every other killer nowadays has a mini-mori. If the survivor's on their last hook state, that is. Jason actually gets 2 mini-moris with this, meaning he has the most moris out of any killer in the game, which it just makes him even cooler. I've personally always thought a spear killer would be really fun, but all these extra elements tagged on just make Jason such a unique blend of a character and really entertaining as and against. Jason comes with a range of add-ons which, as always, are a mixed bag, but I can see most of these getting used somehow. Deputy's Badge, Corkscrew, and Coroner's Coffee seem like standouts, especially that last one. Don't be surprised if nerfs come later for those specifically, but use them while you can, they're fun. Okay, what do we talk about now? The perks? Oh boy. I knew 13 was an unlucky number, but these perks are... mid. I don't think there's a better word to describe them, honestly. They're interesting ideas. In fact, when the PTB patch notes came out, I was very excited to try them. Oh, I've always wanted a park like this. Okay. When they came to live, somehow Behavior put all the good execution into his power. Let's start with the one I was excited for the most, Silent Shadow. On the PTB, it combined two perk types I've always wanted in the game. Undetectable at the start and end of a match. Now I can see why that could be a bit problematic on killers with high mobility getting a surprise hit at the start of a game, but the effect they replaced it with is undetectable after a hook. Something something anniversary hook perk nickel. It's an okay perk now, still useful for endgame, but on Jason himself it's not very useful considering the guy already has undetectable tied to his traversal tool. With other perks can't be worse, right? Rampage is a representation of Jason's unending rage. With every time that you break a pallet or wall with your basic break action, you gain a stacking buff that applies haste after being stunned. Now on paper that sounds like okay. You break pallets to earn a perk that grants a leg up in case you get stunned. So, how much is it per token? This perk suffers from how little it gives you for how much you'd need to dedicate to earning tokens. I played a match as Michael to test if I could get any evil hits using this perk with other similar perks like End Fury, and in that whole match I got 3 hits from it. I say from it, but in actuality it felt like I got those hits from the other 2 perks. The perk is okay in its purpose as a rage mode, but definitely needs some changes if it wants to be an interesting rage mode. Some ideas I thought of could be you gain more tokens per break, so you reach the cap faster. But I feel like this would just be like weaker Shadowborn. Maybe if instead the haste applied after breaking an object, this could find its place outside of End Fury with a slight edge? I like the perk icon. Finally we have Hex, Scared to Death. Cool name. How does it play? This perk has a few requirements to activate, so let me just run these by you. You have to hook 3 unique survivors. By that, I mean 3 of the 4 survivors have to be hooked. Then, this perk applies to a totem. You then need to be chasing a survivor, basic break a pallet, so no power breaks, and it applies to survivors within haha funny number 13 meters. But what does it do? For all that work, it applies a 13 haha funny number % of hindered, and makes the survivor scream. Now 13% sounds like a lot, but in practice, the range and the duration of the hinder being a measly 3 seconds makes this perk feel bad to play with. The survivor you're chasing can also just pre-drop and run, making you unable to affect them with this perk. And yeah, it's not that great. Not even mentioning the fact that other chase hex perks like Blood Favor start the game active and actively prevent survivors from using the pallet in the first place. You know, earning the right to be a perk that can just be removed from the game. Well, at least this perk feels unique, right? Right? Right. Flak and Game of Foot. 2 perks on not everyone's favourite, but certainly my favourite setup character, the Skull Merchant. Thwack does most of what Scared to Death does, and Game of Foot does basically the rest. Well, yes, I'm saying 2 perks do the same thing as 1 perk, but this is a hex that you can be removed from the game, and you have to set up. These perks don't require that. They're just better. For those who don't know, Thwack makes people scream when you break a wall or pallet in a range larger, and then reveals their aura for long enough duration. You can actually act upon it, rather than just making them scream and that's all. Game of Foot is a terrible perk, admittedly, but the idea of having to chase your obsession and perform any break action to gain a movement speed boost makes it definitely a better choice than all the other stuff you have to do just to kind of make them stumble a bit. I'm unsure how exactly you'd be able to salvage this perk, but maybe making it apply to also breakable walls. Maybe making it actually hinder the survivors for longer. But I don't know if that would be too oppressive. But saying that, it's a hex perk you have to hook most of the lobby to activate. Overall, I think if the only true disappointment of a character's release is their perks could be better when compared to the absolute success their power is, then I think you can count this as a win for Dead by Daylight, especially for a year 10 killer. I think Jason's very worth getting just for his power alone, and hopefully one day his perks are worth getting him for. I think I'm done yapping for now. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you if I do another one of these, and for our next killer... Right, who is it anyway?
Oh my god.